If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? Okay, welcome back to the conversation with Jose Bolaños. And it's Wednesday, so we're going to talk about impact and innovation. And if you have not listened to Monday's episode where we talked about mindset and your infinite purpose, you need to go back and listen to that because we're going to take that a little deeper. So Jose, we were talking last time about this whole infinite concept. There were things, there was this energy, this soul before you were born. You get to live in it as a human during that time, and it will exist after you die, after the body, the vehicle dies. So take us a little further into, well, first off, share a little bit more about the impact you want to make with that concept. And then we're going to talk about some of the practices that you discuss and that you share in your work and how we can innovate them into our own personal practices. So start with impact. Who do you want to help in this world?
So my work has taken me to so many people. Like I kept it open. I've worked with activists. I've worked with people trying to topple a dictator in the country that I'm from. I've worked with activists who were thrown in jail, tortured, and so worked with them after they came out of jail, before and after. I've worked with business leaders, also in Latin America, and university students and entrepreneurs. And recently, I've been more focused on entrepreneurs in the US. This is a market that I've been wanting to specifically open for myself when we talk about innovating and choosing where we're going to focus. This is something that I strategically been moving towards, but my work has been developed working with people who have, thrived in crisis and really want to have an impact in difficult circumstances. So again, going back to my purpose, which I call the infinite purpose, is a source of presence, strength, and transformation for others. This is very key, especially this part, because our infinite purpose is something that we're going to fulfill every day, and we're never going to finish fulfilling. It's infinite. We fulfill every day, and we never finish fulfilling it. So to be a source of presence, strength, and transformation is something that I do every day, and I never finish doing. This is important for this part. Why? Because once you connect to your infinite purpose, then you can start designing, innovating, and creating the finite vehicles or the finite projects where you're going to fulfill this. How are you going to bring it into the world? This is how you're going to monetize it. This is how you're going to create a business around it. This is how you're going to create an impact. Choose who you're going to work with. So I have this very broad, infinite purpose of being a source of presence, strength, and transformation for others. But then I make a coaching offer. So I do one-on-one coaching. That's where I do this. Coaching isn't my purpose. My purpose is the other thing. Coaching is the way I'm going to bring it into the world. Writing a book. That book is a finite project. I do a podcast in Spanish. I do workshops. I have a flagship program called Unbreakable, where I teach the principles, the tools, the practices. All these things are finite projects. I will always be fulfilling my infinite purpose, but the finite projects can change. The finite projects can be taken away from me in any moment. I have control of that. The infinite purpose cannot be taken away from you. Like, you can fulfill it under any circumstances. But whether I do things online, that can change. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, you know, the vape, the
Yeah.
vape.
Yeah.
I think the FDA just banned vaping or Juul products. Somebody here in my country said, that's so sad. Imagine the people who had that business around vapes, like they have to close their business. I'm like, yeah, but that's this principle. And projects, they can be taken away from you in any moment.
Mhm.
Platforms, technology, circumstances, pandemics, wars,
Mhm.
anything can happen.
Yeah.
Insurgencies, uprisings, shifts in reality that can turn any finite vehicle obsolete. Any finite
Yeah.
project can be taken away from you. Even when somebody says my purpose is my family, they're putting their purpose into a finite project. You can lose your family. Your family can leave you. Your partner can be faithful to you. So if you
Yes.
put your focus on a finite project, you're going to be breakable. You're going to be setting yourself up for failure. But when you connect to the infinite purpose, then you can shift and reinvent. It's not like, how can I make money now? It's how can I continue serving my purpose? How can I continue being a source of presence, strength, and transformation? And I've been able to pivot and reinvent myself in innovate ways continuously, even through an insurgency in my country, even through a global pandemic. So that's what keeps me in the game. That's what keeps me um, being able to contribute and add value. It's being connected to that infinite purpose and not putting my trust in the finite projects. I don't know if all of that made sense that I just laid out.
Yes, absolutely. So take us a little deeper into, let's say, one of those things. So let's say during the pandemic, what were you doing before the pandemic? What vehicle were you using? I love those
Okay.
terms, by the way. I
Yeah.
love how you can do that. And then when the pandemic hit, how were you able to iterate or shift to a different vehicle so that you could still be fulfilling that
Yeah.
purpose?
So I'll go a step back. And
Okay.
prior to this pandemic, I'm from Nicaragua. In Nicaragua in 2018, we had a insurgency. We had an entire country go into a conflict, um, similar to a civil war, but not quite there. But there was a uprising from the population to try to topple the government, who has been in power for over 15 years now. And prior to that uprising, everything was beautiful. Nicaragua's economy was growing, and if you looked at it, it was like blossoming. But my business wasn't as pertinent. I was, trying to do consulting, trying to do team building and leadership in companies, trying to teach some of these principles in companies, but it wasn't quite needed in the moment. The market wasn't quite ready for it. The insurgency hit. Now we had a lot of people feeling anxiety and feeling fear, not knowing what was going to happen, the uncertainty and the volatility and the complexity and the ambiguity of things collapsing. Now it's like I was ready to serve this market. I was ready to serve this context. And what grew was a program called Unbreakable. I was already doing ice baths before for myself. I was already training myself before this happened. Nobody else was training themselves before. Uh, and so this this program actually became like it grew and it developed inside Crisis. But Crisis was actually important for it to actually become what it became. It actually helped catalyze the Unbreakable method. That it's my flagship method, my flagship program. And then on top of that, the pandemic hit. So when I was before the pandemic, I was doing in-person workshops and I was gathering people together. I was teaching this only in Nicaragua. But then you have a global pandemic, and I already spent 2 years curating this program about crisis management, being unbreakable in an uncertain world warrioring up, and now it's ready to be delivered to a global audience. And what I did immediately was I couldn't do in-person training, but I went online and I started delivering it in an online format. So through the pandemic, I was working with entrepreneurs, with teams, with corporate teams that were at home, and I started teaching them principles. And at the same time, I was learning myself. I was learning a lot online about breath work and resilience building and how our nervous system works. And I started diving more and more into the principles and science of resiliency and started teaching it online. And then when things opened up again, it's like now I get to stages, not to go deliver it in person again. But it's been polished through crisis.
Yes.
It's been my ability to be a source of presence, strength, and transformation has actually gotten better through crisis. I've become better at it because it's been tried in battle, because it's gone through difficulty. It's been evidenced in the moments where it really counts, whether it's through prior to the pandemic in Nicaragua, during the pandemic in a more global stage. And now it's like a necessity. It's like the world needs this, the world needs these principles. So it's interesting how it's worked out for me about just letting go and seeing where it takes me.
You know, I have to double down on that and reiterate what you just said. So CEO Mischief Makers listening, think about the conversation we had on Monday and how you have to trust that you have an infinite purpose beyond just your finite existence and the finite things you want, or even experiences that might add to your infinity because you expand your understanding of the world and therefore expand your understanding of yourself. But the finite purpose you might think you have, now you can look at that, and once you develop that ability to trust yourself, look inside yourself, face whatever's there, because we all have demons, we all have difficulties, we all have mistakes, we all have things that we've had to deal with in our past. When you're able to face it and trust, then you can look what Jose just mentioned. You can look at situations, and I love the noble warrior. That's why you have that, because you are a warrior. You can handle these things in times of crisis, so that when the crisis passes, as it always does, until the next crisis happens, as it always does, you are ready to have that infinite purpose applied to the next project you might have to handle. That is so beautiful. That is just so beautiful. I don't have any other word for it.
Yeah, and it's very hard to, like, it makes sense, like Steve Jobs says, it makes sense looking backwards.
Yeah.
But I never would have imagined that starting to get in ice was going to become so transformational in my life.
Yeah.
When I started getting in ice, I had a little understanding of what that meant. And then I had no idea that I was getting in ice, prepare myself for a crisis, that it was going to help me during a crisis, that it was going to become so fundamentally part of my life, to the point where I understand it in such a depth today that I could have never imagined when I started this. And it became an offer, it became something that I monetized without really planning it, without really thinking, oh, I'm going to get an ice and then I'm going to like charge people to do it for them.
Yeah.
It became something that the world was asking for. And all I did was respond to that. It's like, oh, the people want this, people need this. And I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to give it. And that's, the ice is just one of those things. And it's just one of the tools. There's multiple tools, there's multiple principles, multiple experiences and things that I've learned on my path. That's what I offer the world today, because the world needs it, because the world is in need of this. So I've really learned how to identify what I'm good at, what my talent is, what I offer, and then just really give that to the world. And I do that again through my Unbreakable program, through one-on-one coaching, through a podcast, through speaking on other people's podcasts, through writing or the content that I create online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that because it also reminds me of something. I don't remember who said this. Oh, no, I do. One of the mentors that I follow, his name is Nick Cavuto. And one of the things he says specifically is, I couldn't strategize my way into the opportunities I've faced. I can only trust, and it happens. But that's what you're talking about. You can't strategize your way in. You can't say, okay, here's my thing. I'm going to start with ice baths, and then I'm going to offer it to the world, and everybody's going to want it. And then I'll build a program around it. That's a strategy. That's starting to strategize your way into that. Yeah. But when you can actually trust yourself and look at the things that are lighting you up, that are actually participating or contributing to the betterment of your infinite purpose, yeah, then it happens. But you can't strategize it, right?
But I do believe you're strategizing over here.
Yeah.
But the opportunity pops up over here.
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't be strategizing, like trying to figure it out, like constantly trying to figure it out, like I've been trying to figure it out for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And by trying to figure it out, when something does show up as an opportunity, I'm ready to ride that wave. So I see this as, you know, people who learn how to surf the waves of opportunity, let's call opportunity a wave. You learn, it's like opportunity shows up, you ride that opportunity, and then you got to go set yourself up again for the next opportunity. I think this is why people who win the lottery, they go back or are worse off than because they weren't ready for it. They didn't prepare for it. They didn't strategize for it. They didn't do the work. So they're not ready to ride that wave of opportunity and then position themselves for the next one. So something I didn't mention is that I actually work in a company. I'm actually the VP of leadership development in a company, a digital marketing agency, where I get to build my brand and do what I do and also serve inside. And 5 years ago, I would have thought that taking a job in this company would have been seen as a failure as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I was really, at that moment, I didn't see it as a failure because I was more focused on, will this company let me be a source of presence, strength, and transformation to them? Will they let me fulfill my infinite purpose authentically? And they did. They gave me the opportunity to just come and do you, and see what happens. And the person who runs this company, JC, trusts me and gave me, like, just do you. I don't even know what we're going to measure you with. Just do it. And I've been here 3 years now, and it's just opened doors to immense opportunities, you know. And again, I couldn't have strategized. My relationship with this company, I couldn't plan it. I wasn't looking for it. It just showed up. But I was ready to discern that was the right thing to do. I was ready to say, oh, this is a great opportunity, because I was strategizing something else, but this was going to facilitate it a lot better. So, like Picasso says, when opportunity comes or when luck comes, let it find you working.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.